The psychology of people who hide their pain. Well, you're good at it. So good that most people never notice. You show up, you function, you smile at the right moments. You listen more than you speak. And when something hurts, really hurts, you don't say it out loud. You carry it quietly. You swallow it whole. Not because you don't feel pain, but because you learned how to hide it. You learned how to stay composed while breaking inside. How to be helpful when you needed help. How to be strong when you were exhausted. People admire you for that. They call you resilient, independent, emotionally mature. But here's the paradox no one talks about. The very skill that once kept you safe is now slowly costing you your life. Because hiding pain is not the same as healing it. And strength that is never allowed to soften eventually becomes a prison. You don't collapse, you don't explode, you disappear quietly. And the most dangerous thing about people who hide their pain well is not that they suffer, it's that no one thinks to ask if they are. Most people who hide their pain well are not emotionally numb, they are emotionally trained. They grew up learning that feelings were inconvenient, ignored, or unsafe. Not always through cruelty, often through silence. Emotional neglect is not about what happened to you, it's about what didn't. No one paused to ask how you felt. No one stayed long enough to understand your inner world. No one taught you that your emotions had a place. So your nervous system adapted. You learned to scan rooms instead of expressing needs. You learned to read faces instead of trusting words. You became outwardly calm and inwardly alert. This is hypervigilance, not panic, but constant readiness. Many of you became the strong one too early, the responsible one, the one who didn't add problems. This is called parentification. You didn't get to be held. You became the one who holds. Over time, your identity formed around usefulness, around being needed, around not being a burden. Attachment-wise, this often becomes emotional avoidance. Not because you don't want closeness, but because closeness once came with a cost. You learned independence before safety, self-sufficiency before support. You didn't become strong because you were supported. You became strong because you had no choice. And there is a quiet grief in that, a grief no one sees, the grief of being praised for survival instead of softness, the grief of being valued for reliability instead of honesty, the grief of being loved for what you provide, not for who you are. You carry pain silently, but pain does not disappear when ignored. It becomes tension, fatigue, a restlessness you can't explain. You might struggle to feel joy fully. You might feel lonely even around people. You might feel tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. Carl Jung said, well, what is denied gains power. And denied emotions don't go away. They wait. They show up as burnout, as numbness, as a constant feeling that something is missing. You may fear judgment, you may fear abandonment, you may even fear rest. Because rest requires safety, and safety requires letting go of control, and control was how you survived. The philosopher Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, but your suffering isn't imagined, it's postponed. You postpone grief, you postpone anger, you postpone needing, until one day life feels muted, flat, distant. Rilke once wrote that what frightens us often wants our love. Your pain does not want to destroy you, it wants to be seen. As an adult, this shows up in patterns. In relationships, you may become the emotional anchor. You listen, you support, but rarely lean. You attract people who need you, but don't truly see you. You struggle to ask for help until you're already overwhelmed. In communication, you minimize, you say, it's fine when it isn't. You explain away your hurt. In your career, you overperform. You take responsibility that isn't yours. You tie your worth to productivity. In boundaries, you feel discomfort, but override it. You feel guilty saying no. You give more than you receive. Emotionally, you stay composed in crisis, but fall apart alone, or don't fall apart at all, just shut down. In identity, you know who you are for others, but not who you are for yourself. These are not flaws, they are coping mechanisms. They once protected you, they once kept you safe, but adulthood asks a different question. What helped me survive, and what is now keeping me stuck? Healing does not begin with doing more. It begins with softening, with noticing your feelings without fixing them, with naming your needs without apologizing for them. Inner child work is not about reliving the past. It's about giving yourself what was missing, attunement. Shadow work is not about becoming darker. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that learned to disappear. Nervous system regulation matters. Slowing down, breathing, allowing stillness without panic. You don't need to become louder. You don't need to break down to prove your pain is real. You need permission to be human. You don't heal by proving you're strong. You heal by realizing you no longer have to be. Let yourself be supported, imperfectly. Let yourself be seen, gradually. Let yourself rest, without guilt. Because the goal is not to be fixed. The goal is not to be fixed, but to become whole. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who hides their pain too. And if you want more deep psychological work like this, subscribe and stay. You don't have to carry this alone anymore.